Buongiorno. Welcome to DTFA Podcast. I'm Kate.
I'm Elle, and if you couldn't tell, we'll be in Italy when this is posted.
So we're either getting pickpocketed or eating pasta. There is no in between.
Today we're going to be talking about House of Flame and Shadow, chapters 94 through 98. But first, we have a book rec sent in from another podcast.
The podcast is A Court of Heaven and Hell, hell spelled the way that we spell it, on Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And they most recently covered A Court of Mist and Fury. So go check them out. Their book rec is something I had not heard of, Powerless by Lauren Roberts.
Okay. I'm interested to hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's set in the kingdom of Ilia, where decades ago, a plague left some people with magic. Those who possess it are now considered elites, and those without are not only ordinaries, but they're shunned and removed from society. Payton, if that's how you say it.
No, you say it with confidence, and I love that.
We're going to roll with it then. Payton, it's spelled like Paedyn. Payton feels good. Payton is one of those ordinaries trying to survive and go unnoticed by posing as a psychic until one day when she unwittingly saves one of the princes of Ilia, Kai Azar. As a result, she is entered into a treacherous tournament designed to show off the elite's abilities.
We love a tournament.
As I'm reading through this, I'm like, I may have read this.
You say that about every single book, right? You're like, actually, I read this.
This is the only issue we've talked about with reading so many series is like, this sounds interesting. And I'm like, I would have read this. Have I read this?
Maybe I already did.
Maybe I need to reread it or read it just in case. Anyway, she's entered into a treacherous tournament designed to show off the elite's abilities. If she wants to survive, she must now navigate the competition while protecting her deadly secret and her heart from feeling she's fighting for the prince, who will certainly end her if he discovers the truth. And
this is what they had to say about it. I highly enjoyed this book. It's dual POV, and the banter and tension between the main characters is absolutely palpable. Love that. There are characters you love and characters you hate, and there are some truly great moments as well as heart-wrenching ones, and the ending will leave you so upset that the next book is not out. Hate that for us.
Yes.
It's YA with no spice. I mean, none, but the tension makes up for it. And I trust them. It was definitely trope heavy. What isn't that we're reading? And there's some world building to be fleshed out in the next book, but overall it was a very enjoyable experience and I loved it. As a debut novel, this book definitely left me excited about what else Lauren Roberts will do with her career. Also, they say if you're an audiobook listener that they recommend that version because both voice actors did an incredible job.
Ooh.
I'm interested in the multiple voice actors part because I haven't listened to any of the, what do you call it, graphic audio or something? Because somebody's done that with ACOTAR where it's like an ensemble cast.
Oh, no, I haven't heard anything like that. I've listened to audiobooks where it's just like one person reading the whole thing.
And then doing like accent. Who had a southern accent?
Flynn. Yeah, whenever they read the Crescent City Audible, they gave Flynn a southern accent. I was like, I guess, okay.
All right. The yeehawification of Flynn.
Yeah, and I mean, I am down for a good YA novel. I've got a lot I haven't recommended to you guys because we always tend to go heavy on spice, but YA can be so well written sometimes, and I wouldn't mind some more spice, but if you go into it knowing that's not part of it, it feels more like a letdown when you're looking for the spice. Right. It just doesn't happen.
Well, and I mean, like Folk of the Air, that's one that doesn't have a lot of spice, but is such a good series.
It does have some, but it's not as detailed as I would like it to be. Yeah,
there's that part behind the throne room that I was like, all right, it's happening, and then no.
There's something that they have sex on the floor.
Do they, or does it cut away? Book? Is that not the behind the throne room? Is that?
No, I think behind the throne room is finger banging.
Oh, okay. I love a good finger bangering.
I love a
good finger bangering. Is what I just said.
The fangering is really what's going to catch on, I think.
I love fangering.
Love that fanger. Oh, God. Now that we're Southern, it just went. Never mind. We have to nix that one. It's
okay.
If you're interested in sharing a book rec or a meme or a hot take, please message Kate on IG at DTFA Podcast.
I'm always on.
She is.
Chronically online.
I would say you could message both of us, but I am not good with socials. Like I check on things, but I'm not good at like posting or paying attention. So Kate handles all that good stuff for us. We pick back up in House of Flame and Shadow, chapter 94, in the hallway of the Crystal Palace, Ruhn has offered to trade himself for Lydia's sons, who Pollux has kidnapped.
It seems like Pollux is going to go for the trade, but last minute he says, I don't see why I can't have everything I want. Kind of sexy, not in this situation.
So
and
crazy.
He shoots a spear of power towards Brann.
But Pollux doesn't know about Lydia's newly unlocked strength and something else. Thanks to the antidote Therion gave her to heal her gunshot wound.
So she's a runner. She's a track star. She makes it to Brann in time, knocking him over and bursting into white, hot flames.
Love this.
I
know it's coming, but I was so excited. Mm-hmm. It's been hinted at, but it's finally confirmed that Lidia has fire magic.
Just like Aelin.
I mean, and just to drive the point home, she finally calls Brann by his full name, Brannon.
And we saw that coming, but
I have goosebumps like saying that right now.
I know. We've so seen cheesy. Her appear as Flame on the Mind Bridge.
Yeah.
She was low-key the person that put out the Autumn King's flame in the Cave of Princes. There were all these comparisons to flame and fire and everything about her eyes and whatever, but it's so exciting to finally actually get this confirmation. Like to hear, I read Brannon and I was
like, when I
vibrating with excitement.
Her child's name was Brann. Like I could take the
guess.
We've
already talked about
we've
that.
Talked about the ruby ring,
obvious.
But we're driving the point home. There's white hot flames.
It's happening.
I'm so excited. I feel like the Office meme where like,
it's happening.
Everybody's running around. It's happening. I mean, this is some shifter shit. She tells Pollux, how we used to be, how Danica told me we were.
When the fuck did Danica have time for all of these secret side quests?
I mean, like, you were cool with Lidia? What?
Right. Well, I know. It's so weird. Pollux runs at Lidia, but she pours fire down his throat, roasting him from the inside out.
I am so glad she got to be the one to do this.
She deserved it. She deserved this moment.
I love this for her.
I'm very glad that it wasn't Ruhn that like saving her. I'm glad that because she's taking care of herself this entire time. Like, I'm glad that she didn't need someone to save her.
Well, it's saving herself, but also like she, after the years and the abuse she's put up from Pollux, she needs to have the opportunity to be the one to end him if she so chooses. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy for her for that. Lidia tells Ruhn to get her sons and Therion out of there.
Because women and children first. Oh, and Therion's bag with the vial of antidote in it, that's going to be important later.
That he still one has vial
that. The left. One vial.
Ruhn starts to argue, but get my sons to safety and we're even, she tells him.
After he shot her and left her behind enemy lines.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can do this for her.
In Lydia's POV, we learn she's known of her power since she was a child, not which power. Her flames were always different.
And she was the only shifter she knew of with flames. So she kept them a secret, especially from the Asteri, because she knows she would have ended up some sort of experiment,
Oh, yeah.
Or they would have made her like be an even worse, like she'd be out there torturing people.
I just wonder, like, I hope we get more answers, but I wonder if because of her father's bloodline and then because it was mixed with her mother, that's what made the difference for her in this power shift. Like, so many questions. And then of course Lidia ran into that secretive bitch Danica, who had somehow learned things about Lydia's paternal bloodline and was curious if she had Fae-like elemental gifts.
So this was when Danica was in her research into shifter heritage.
It always comes back to Danica.
She had known the shifters were from another world, ones that had Fae and humanoid forms with elemental powers.
This is really brazen of Danica to like just approach Lidia. Like the hind of all people, you're like going to ask her about? Like, wow.
I know.
That's brave.
So many things do not make sense about Danica when you look back. Like, I don't know how she had the time.
Or like how she knew it was safe to say anything to her.
And can you imagine being Bryce? And it's like, I wonder when she's going to find out about this.
But all the connections coming back around.
Yeah, it's just, she knew there were other worlds and you didn't tell your best friend. Like, if I found out that there was another world, I would text you immediately.
We have to discuss.
Yeah.
You can't just know this by yourself.
It's like she talked to everyone except for her best friend about it.
Which is really sad.
It is.
But back to the elemental powers. That's what inspired Lidia to name her son after Brannon, from the oldest legends from her family's bloodline, a Fae king from another world with fire in his veins, who created stags with the power of flame to be his sacred guards.
That literally gives, like, when I was reading this, I had chills.
I love the confirmation. Yes. Tell me more.
One thing I'm hung up on is the way that it's worded. It kind of makes it sound like she's descended from the stag guards. Like, am I crazy?
Well, yeah, because she mentions the stag, and based on like her being a hind, and then the flame with it does. I'm very confused. I'm like, so are you actually an offspring, or is it something he created with this power?
Because like it's not like I named my son after someone like from my line. It's just based on someone like the oldest story. So
well, and I mean, Brannon is. Oh, never mind. We've already talked about how the timeline doesn't match up. I was about to go down a rabbit hole.
15,000 years.
Yeah, because I was going to say maybe it's a different descendant somehow connected with Brannon, because she knows of Brannon, but she doesn't mention Aelin. Like, I mean, wouldn't there be stories of our fire-breathing bitch queen too?
And I guess she could be descended from Dorian and Manon, especially there's the witch connection, and like Dorian could shift. He mostly liked to be a woman, but he could shift.
Well, I mean, and the gold eyes.
Right. There's just, I don't know.
Aelin's story could be happening right now. Like it could be happening simultaneously. I hope we get more clarity on that.
Well, and I do wonder if this Twilight of the Gods series is going to have more Throne of Glass connections, because I need answers about the timeline, because my tiny little girl brain is not putting it together. The 15,000 years, the 2,000 between Brannon and Aelin, and then the rings. And
well, I mean, it's also in the Throne of Glass world that Aelin and Dorian move all of the gods somewhere else. So like it would make sense for that to like Throne of Glass to be more involved with Twilight of the Gods.
But if you're naming your child after someone from like the legends of your people, and it has to do with flames, you're not choosing Aelin. I mean, I know it with 2 boys,
but it also sounds like whatever crossing happened before Aelin was around.
It doesn't make any sense, because it's been 15,000 years.
Well, it doesn't make sense anyway, because Brannon still wouldn't have been around when the crossing happened. Mm-hmm. So like, it's got to be a descendant of Brannon's, but before Aelin was around, or else she would. I mean, how do you not know about the bitch queen that saved the whole continent?
I don't know
everything. I mean, Sarah gave us a lot in this book. I hate to sound so greedy.
I know I sound like I'm not grateful. I'm grateful for my little crumbs. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
I need more.
And now I'm going to use those to speculate for more.
Right.
Lydia admits that she'd been glad when Danica died.
Honestly, same.
Not for the same reasons, but okay. She was glad because Danica had asked so many questions and she dropped so much knowledge, but shit's changed. Lydia's not hiding her true self anymore.
Flames ripple from Lydia as she races towards the battlefield, and the first target is Danica's shitty, deadbeat, Dreadwolf father, Mordok.
Get him. She's blasting Dreadwolves, angels, everyone.
Bullets are melting before they can reach her.
It's such a like badass.
It's badass
visual.
I mean, this is one of those scenes that I'm like, this has to be a movie. This can't be like a half-assed Hulu show.
Yeah.
This has to be like a Lord of the Rings level budget movie. I won't accept anything less, or don't make it. Make something animated. I don't want it to be, it has to, I mean, it's never going to live up to our expectations, but it has to at least have the money and the effects to like do it justice.
Oh my gosh, this could be so good. So interesting. If there's other series that they've made into TV shows that I won't like drag through the mud, but I'm like, this is way better than that one.
Right.
She mentally casts out an I love you to Ruhn and dives deep into her power.
This sounds like Aelin too, because do you think that Lydia is settling? This verbiage of, diving deep into your power, it just sounded like their version.
Well, she's already had settling. The drop, but she didn't have the same access to her power now that the parasite's gone, so maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. She's already gonna live a very long life. Like, she has done the drop.
This feels like it's so much more because she can now have like a different kind of access to it.
And she is also like running towards the missile launchers, by the way. Like, she's
full tilt running into
she's
battle.
Ready to end this even if it kills her.
That's a little, I mean, we just saved your sons. I hate that, but I also appreciate that she's like, I can do this and I can help.
Right.
The war machines follow Lydia's movements, brimstone missiles aimed right at her. But before her flame can get to them, before they can shoot, the launch barrels melt and the missiles explode.
Because the sprites are here.
Yay, the sprites. Yay. I forgot about them for a little bit.
I did too. And they have the queen with them.
The triplets found Erithus just as Bryce asked them to.
And the queen tells Lydia that she sensed the fire in her from the very first time they met.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Imagine the fire sprites flames with the antidote.
Lidia and the fire sprites are just like fucking shit up, and they start with the war machines and the pilots.
Meanwhile, Ruhn is trying to get Therion and Lydia's boys out of the palace.
You know, women and children.
I mean, to be fair, poor Therion was shot.
I know.
He needs some help.
He's doing his best. If Ruhn doesn't do something, Therion is going to be dead in a few minutes with how much he's bleeding. So Ruhn knocks back the last antidote. And okay, this had to happen. I don't want to lose Therion, but I'm also like, fuck, someone else should have taken that.
Well, there's so much going on. We can't hope that Bryce and Hunt are going to finally come back around, you know, like, but they also, I feel like, have gotten more of a chance than some of the others when it comes to power. So, like, let's level up as many people as we can to try to, like, get this going.
And it's good timing because the guards are coming back. Therion's folded. So Ruhn does have to, like, take care of shit.
Yeah, they're definitely not out of the woods yet. After a quick blackout, Ruhn levels up, sending Starlight into the guards just like Bryce did to murder the twins back on Avalon.
And twin whips of shadow wrap around the guards' necks.
Oh, I love that. That's so sexy. He's got both.
It's so sexy.
And he's like, watch this. And it sounds like Rhys.
Ruhn has always been a shadow daddy, but his shadows sound much more useful now. Like he's more in control. Which, I mean, there are a lot of sexy possibilities here with this. Like, he doesn't have his lip ring anymore. That's a tragedy. But now he has shadow whips.
I mean, I'm thinking of Dorian manacling Manon's wrists on the boat.
Well, and if you're into shadow daddies, I am begging you to read the Flesh and Fire series by JLA because he does some interesting things. He does some interesting things with his shadows.
I'm listening. Ruhn literally beheads them with his shadows.
And that's not all the antidote unlocked. Ruhn has healing magic. And I did not see this coming, but it is super convenient with Therion like bleeding out on the ground. This is another like, okay, I guess this had to happen, but
I mean, like, Ruhn is like whipping out all kinds of different magic because it's not just the shadows. He's got Starlight that Rhys doesn't have, and now he's got healing magic, which sounds very much like Helion. Where is this coming from?
I don't know.
I mean, who can we trace this all back to? Is that a connection?
I thought of Irene, like she had light, which is kind of like Starlight, and obviously the healing abilities. So maybe.
I mean, in ACOTAR, also, Lucian has healing magic.
So and Lucy has fire magic.
I was going to say, I went to Helion, but yeah, closer than that, Lucian.
Yeah. I don't know.
I guess it makes sense that Ruhn could be related to Lucian on his dad's side through those fire wielders that came through with Thea.
Well, the family tree confuses the fuck out of me. Like, in the next book, I would love a better map because, like, we don't even know where the witches are living. But then I would love just a family tree, especially because it seems like he would be related to Ruhn through his mom, but it would, like, for Ruhn to be related to Rhys and Bryce, it would have to be through the dad for them to be starborn. But then it seems like it was through Ruhn's mom. Remember?
I can't even like find words to begin.
We have tiny little girl brains.
Well, we need more information, and Sarah did spell out a lot for us in this book, like really just like gave it to us without making us guess.
We ate, but it was just not enough. It's never going to be enough.
I hope that she'll like give us like very, like she spelled out Brann and the connection to fire with Lidia. So I'm like, okay, it's a good start. Tell me more.
I know. I'm like, is that just a name or is that
if they related? Can heal the parasite in the next book, can she start giving us more obvious connections once people's power comes out and they can like learn more about where they came? Well, and also now we can comfortably go to Prythian. So like maybe this can evolve more with more information in the next book.
I don't know if I'd call it comfortably. I don't
know. Okay, well, when we return,
I don't know if Rhys is just ready to
we return
down
the
that
mask,
wall.
I think that will help a lot.
Right.
I'm not saying everybody can go, but like we could have some open communication.
But imagine being able to just like vacation in Prythian.
I mean, okay, that's something.
And Az can come over and go to like a club.
Oh my God. Whenever you sent me that thing with Az as like an emo drummer, I was like, I am feeling this so much.
God, he's so
Sleeve
sexy.
tattoos, rocking out hard.
I need an ACOTAR announcement. I need something.
It's going to be so good.
It's going to be good.
So Ruhn's back. He's healing. He instinctively knows what to do, which is impressive.
It's another point of like, I would be like,
how do I make this magic work? I'd
just be like very concentrated and touching and be like,
I feel like this is melding, right? So he closes the wound as a shudder rocks the palace and time slows.
And I guess that's another Asteri dying, but we don't actually find out. Like I don't know. We assume I have to assume that Apollyon just killed another Asteri, but that's not actually spelled out for us.
Yeah.
They
Or
all,
somebody is gravely injured if they're
yeah.
not dying.
Well, and I think I figured it out later. Like I went back and I looked at the list of like who was where, and not all of them show up. Like minus Sirius and Polaris, there's like one more missing, and I'm like, I guess he got like an off-camera death.
Okay.
Embarrassing.
At least he's down. Bonus, time slowing gives Ruhn more time to heal Therion.
He wants to run into battle, but Lidia trusted him with what matters to her most, her sons. And he's not going to take that lightly. And I think that that is like a big step for him. It's like growth.
Yeah, it's really important. So they run out of the palace and they run straight into Ethan.
Ethan, who is carrying the Godslayer rifle and the second light bullet, continues into the palace to find Bryce. And Ruhn tells the boys to keep close and they start running.
Ruhn is going to be the best stepdaddy.
I think, first of all, he's not a stepdaddy.
He's
a daddy who stepped out. He's a shadow daddy who stepped up.
I do love this for him. Bryce is teleporting she and Hunt through the hall, dodging strikes from Rigelus. Are you wasting all of your energy?
Well, it's just like that time she was running down the hall towards the gate, which was only a week ago. Again, it's like, I'm not the same female I was. And it's like, what, 8 days ago?
Yeah. I mean, granted, a lot has happened in that week.
She keeps winnowing them around, teleporting, whatever, them around as Hunt's lightning continuously slams into the floor. And so he's growing that tunnel of warped melted crystal that's holding the Asteri's first light supply. But like as soon as he strikes, they have to move to dodge it from. So they're just like, I don't know. That's a lot of energy.
Well, it's like, are you making any progress? Because they're striking back as soon as you strike.
I think that they are. I think it's slow, but the crystal is starting to like give way and you can see down into the first light.
But like as it's happening, Bryce is slowing and she still has some big roles to play.
Right.
So she teleports them one level above.
And Hunt's like, what are you doing? I only did one more strike, but then her knees buckle and Hunt's no better off. But he does grab her, and rather than strike her with his hellfire to level her up like he's done in the past, he kisses her and lightning flows into Bryce.
I guess he's literally just like electrified.
Mm-hmm.
Just as Ethan yells, stop,
stop, stop. Right as they're kissing and you're like, fuck, Ethan.
Give me a second.
Again?
He runs down the palace hallway with the Godslayer rifle.
He's such a cock block, and he always has. Please have sex a little bit louder.
I still love that scene.
I know, that might be one of my favorite.
Couldn't hear you.
Funny moments.
Yeah.
Also, just imagine Ethan gets there and he hadn't broken all those antidotes and Hunt and Bryce level up.
Especially because Bryce needs it right now.
She really could use it right now.
Ethan explains the second light bullet from Connor.
And Bryce is like, Connor? Like she didn't see that coming.
Yeah, no time to explain, but he said to make it count.
Thank she had all those shooting lessons with Randall. It all kind of lined up, because if she gave it to me and he was like, you have one bullet, make it count, I'd be like, where's the safety?
Like, how am I supposed to set this scene? Yeah, I'm not good with this.
No.
And it's not just a bullet to be used against one Asteri, it's a second light bomb.
Bryce doesn't have the strength to winnow she and Hunt back to the core, so despite Hunt's protest, she grabs the rifle and she teleports back to the core room.
All by herself.
All by herself.
And she leaves the mask in Hunt's hand.
I remember seeing that being like, weird. And then I remember reading why, and I was still like, weird. Bryce needs one shot. One shot. You can't miss your chance. What is it? Mom spaghetti?
I know. I'm going to mess up the words because that's the part that I know.
Bryce only needs one shot.
Yeah.
Straight down into the tunnel that Hunt has been making this entire time. And it's to blast apart the last of the crystal around the core and release the first light. It'd be cool if it went back to everyone that it was taken from, but I don't think it does.
I mean, that won't kill the Asteri, but it will keep them from replenishing.
It's already a risk lining up the shot, because even though Bryce is like really good with guns, you can't just be like, like you have to like line it up.
I mean, and also hoping there's no interference from Rigelus.
Well, yeah, Rigelus is in the room, and now Hunt isn't there to block her. He's been blocking her this entire time, like with his lightning, and now she's, just like dick in hand out there.
It me. And it's not just Rigelus now. She returns to the forest Asteri standing as a solid wall between Bryce and that first light core.
And so this is when I was like, who the fuck died earlier? But I think I put it together by the end of this episode. But I won't say yet. But in this moment, it sounded like they were all there. And I was like, why did time slow earlier? But it's not just themselves the Asteri are trying to save in this moment, it's all of Midgard.
Because naturally, if you destroy the core, you destroy Midgard itself. Like, come
The
on.
Asteri made the core a kill switch for the entire world, tying their fate to the planets. And I got to put kill switch on the list with like Magic Bean and Bryce being able to use the mask so easily and a couple of other things that I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? But then also this is, I think that the Cauldron and Prithian is probably the kill switch. Because remember when the cauldron was like broken and then the world was quote leaking or whatever?
Mhm.
I think that was the kill switch had been engaged.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Bryce isn't sure if this is a bluff, but it's enough to make her pause.
And Rigelus uses the opening to give Bryce a choice. If she doesn't fire that bullet, she and her people, like her friends, will go free.
The other Asteri are like, excuse me?
And this is where shit gets very good. The language inked on your back is our language from our home world. I can teach you to wield it, and you can go to any world, and it will be yours.
If we're assuming the language on Bryce's back is Wyrdmarks based on the million little hints, that means the Asteri come from the same world as the Vogue.
And the latest hint came from the Underking, and Ethan was looking at the carvings like, these look familiar, probably because he had seen them on Bryce's back. And then there's the black blood, there's the world walking, there's just like a million little hints.
Yeah.
And we know that Bryce's tattoo is in the same language as the Book of Breathings, thanks to Amren when she first went over to Prithian.
Yeah, but also, so why does Amren know the language from the home world of the Asteri?
Amren does not come out of this book looking good. She looks very sus, like the prison, the timeline, the Book of Breathings, like that possibly being Wyrdmarks, and then, the Wyrdmarks being from the home world of the Asteri and the Vogue. I have some questions for that little short bitch. And looking back, I do think there were some moments that Amren used Wyrdmarks, like when they were drowning in the summer court and she opened the doors. I think she might have been using Wyrdmarks.
Yeah, she had to have done something, but we don't actually know that much about the origin of Wyrdmarks.
I'm assuming like this is where the timeline starts to get confusing for me. Like, does that mean the Asteri took the Wyrdmarks to Throne of Glass?
But then why didn't we hear about the Asteri and Throne of Glass?
I don't know if that means they called them the Vogue and we actually did hear about them. There are a lot of holes in that theory, don't get me wrong. But at the end of Sky and Breath, we see the timeline, like when Rigelus is giving his villain speech. It talks about a world, Ifraxia, is that how you say that? That was won and then it was lost. So the Asteri were there, lost, took some Fae with them to Prithian. Maybe that's why Tamlin has shifter abilities. Like, is that Throne of Glass Fae? Ruled there, and then they were kicked out. They tried to take over Hell. They lost. And they finally landed in Midgard with some of those Throne of Glass Fae still with them.
The Asteri and Vogue are similar in a lot of ways, but very different too. They ingest what the Vogue are most afraid of, light.
That's why it's very possible that they are from the same planet. They're just different species.
There's so much more that could go with that. So I get it.
I have a lot of questions.
We could go on about this for a while. Total sidebar. Sorry.
And also, it's a sidebar we have no answers to. And we're probably overthinking it like we did before this book. Like some of our theories they're just fucking wild. And it could also be Sarah just likes certain tropes. Like she likes world walking and alien parasites. Like, I don't know. I don't know if there's always a deeper connection and meaning.
Well, and maybe in the next book again, if Hypaxia can find an actual cure for the parasite, not just like something to tide them over, maybe we'll get more information about where it all truly comes from.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they're going to get it out of the water too.
I hope so. I want to know more. I want it to all come full circle and answer questions. The
parasite Vogue thing too is, I don't know. There's too much to not be something.
Yeah. Rigelus is like, I'll set you up as the true queen of all Valbara, and we won't even take the second light. That was always just dessert anyway.
I would absolutely be like a little tempted. If you were like, you can go to a world and it would be yours. I'd be like, I'm going back to Prithian. I'm going to show Reese what's up.
Forget the rest of you guys.
But it does trigger Bryce because, he's calling the second light, all of these souls that have been taken and eaten, just dessert. And so she is triggered enough to fire the Godslayer rifle right down into the first light core.
I hope she has a backup plan because she fires it right into the kill switch for the entire world.
Right. It it works out. Spoiler alert. It doesn't end
thank
here with
God.
the entire world going into a black hole.
We'd really be rioting.
The bullet, which is powered by the souls of the dead, including Connor and the Pack of Devils. We never really see the other. Remember that there were other people. I don't even remember their names.
Yeah.
But yeah, it smashes through that final layer of crystal as Bryce has the thought, I believe it happened for a reason. I believe it wasn't for nothing.
The words that she'd spoken at the gate last spring.
Rigelus reaches her as the bullet reaches the core, and he wraps his hand around her wrist.
Uh-oh. But like the battery she is, Bryce grabs his power and sucks it into herself.
And we talked about,
would that be possible?
Would that be possible? Especially we talked about that with like Thunderbirds and like Hunt potentially.
There was just no reason that she would be able to get close to him and find out.
Right.
Until now.
Just like when she made the drop, the power of the people of Midgard flows into her. So I guess she's like way more powerful now.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's because of what the power is and she's done it before that it makes sense that she can then siphon it.
Mm-hmm.
Because Rigelus is like a living gate storing other people's power, it now is hers.
Bryce sends all of that power through the horn in her back and opens a portal right as Midgard's kill switch is flipped and the world begins to cave in.
What movie is this? This is giving me, I think it's one of the Star Trek movies. Don't judge me. But they throw like
those were terrible. With Chris Pine?
Oh my God, I love those. What's wrong with you?
Like, are we talking Chris Pine or older, like
Chris
made for
Pine.
TV? Okay.
Come on, please. No, those were good. I like them. Other people may not. Fine. But there is one of the movies where they fire a nuclear bomb into a black hole. And like that's kind of
fucking stupid. This is fucking stupid.
Well, it's not a great idea, but I feel like that's what she's trying to do is like open a black hole around it to contain this big blast.
Right.
Sorry, I got all excited. She sends the core, that growing dark dot emerging from it, through the portal.
So a kill switch for the kill switch.
And she doesn't stop there. Bryce widens the portal enough that it sucks in the Asteri.
Including Rigelus, who is sucked into a black, airless place with stars, but not before he grabs Bryce and yanks her into deep space.
I did not see space factoring into an SJM book, but here we go.
I do wonder if, you know, when Az winnows and he's like in that, like, it kind of sounds like this. Is he going through a black hole? Like, is he creating little, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. Those little, like, because
he doing
winnows
something with
different.
the space-time continuum.
Right. He doesn't winnow like anybody else.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, I know that Sarah has fucked with time and space before, but this kind of threw me. I was like, because I was picturing like the movie Gravity or something. Like they're just floating around in space.
Yeah.
And I'm already thrown a little bit because, you know, the urban modern setting for Crescent City, and now we're in space.
I mean, yeah, this is...
I didn't sign up for a sci-fi book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to an extent, I'm just like, how do we get back out of this?
Right.
From Ruhn's POV, the Crystal Palace is collapsing. Really, it's imploding.
Right, which is bad enough, but now there's a force that's starting to pull everything and everyone in.
So Ruhn, a newly healed Therion, and Lidia's sons start running.
Cutting to Hunt's POV, he is shocked. Bryce left him and teleported to confront the Asteri alone.
Oh, no. I mean, like, sometimes people have to be able to do things by themselves, but like, now
I don't
she's
even know
like,
why they make plans, because Hunt's like, this wasn't the plan.
I know. I'm shocked that he's shocked.
Mm-hmm.
He and Ethan are running when the palace starts collapsing, and he has to choose between trying to make it to Bryce and saving Ethan.
And he knows that Bryce would never forgive him if he let Ethan die. Oh, you know what this reminds me of?
What?
Vampire Diaries.
Yes.
When he has to choose between Elena and her brother.
Yes.
When they're in the car. That's exactly what this is. And he's like, Elena would never forgive me if I chose her.
Yeah.
And then Jeremy ends up being such a little bitch. I hate that character. Anyway, so Hunt knows that Bryce would never forgive him if he let Ethan die. So he grabs the Prime and launches into the air, landing on the rim of a giant crater.
And the void within it.
He recognizes the portal for what it is, a black hole, and he orders Ethan to get as many people out of the way as possible. So I'm assuming Ethan does other stuff and then does that.
Okay. He takes his time. And Hunt assumes it was the joining of the Star Sword and Truth Teller because he doesn't know about the kill switch because it's not like there's time to discuss it.
Right.
But he's like, how the fuck did she get them all at once?
It doesn't really matter because among the glowing lights of the Asteri is Bryce heading straight for the black hole.
I mean, she's inside the hole or space or whatever. There's no air. There's no warmth.
It makes you wonder why or how she's still alive, and she attributes it to the horn and being made, but I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with space?
I mean, like, but if you think about it, it takes a lot to kill these Fae. So, like, she could probably go without air for a little bit and her body will be trying to heal itself.
But
But
she has
eventually,
air. Like she does have it, but she just attributes it to being like because of whatever.
wait, I
The
thought she didn't
horn.
have air.
No, she does. Because when Rigelus grabs her, she doesn't. It changes.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's why I was like, wait a second. Okay.
Yeah.
Details. Sorry, guys. Yeah, somehow she's more okay than we would expect her to be.
Right.
But another one of those don't think about it too much or it makes no sense kind of moments.
Bryce had taken a gamble that a black hole, like the one triggered by the kill switch, like the one opened by the Star Sword and Truth Teller, would be the only force strong enough that no light could escape it.
And what are the Asteri but light?
So she met their black hole with one of her own, a bigger one, a black hole to eat the other black hole. Okay.
I mean, it makes sense, I
Okay.
guess. The Asteri are stars, allegedly, so it's the one place they can't escape from. But realistically, they'd have all been crushed by that black hole.
Right. Like the black holes crush you. And I also have questions about like, is this the void that Apollyon and the Underking say they were birthed from? Does that mean their father was a black hole? Like what does that mean?
I mean, on that note, could Hunt then save her because he's got some of that in his bloodline? So many more questions.
Yeah, and Reese's power is always compared to like a wall of black night. And I'm like, is he black hole-ish? Like, does he have some black hole tendencies?
Yeah, like what level of night are we talking about? Are we talking about out in the atmosphere and space? Because
right.
that's even more intense.
Well, remember, it's like it's blocking her from leaving when they want her to go like down into the caves. And she's like, my light won't penetrate it. Like it's that level of darkness, which reminds me of Apollyon.
But it can't be a full void or black hole because if she had been dumb enough to like test it, I don't think Reese wants her destroyed or lost in it. So I don't know.
I don't think he gave a shit.
I don't know. I think he wanted her to cave so he could get answers.
Yeah.
But back to Bryce careening through space with the Asteri.
I just picture her like end over end.
Yeah, like eventually they're going to just be stationary. There's only a sliver of light from Midgard, one small window.
She knows she needs to close it, that she needs to protect the planet and everyone on it, but it's signing her death warrant, so she's kind of putting it off.
She's also still on her, I believe it all happened for a reason shit.
So she's stalling, basically.
They're all being pulled toward the bigger black hole.
The first light core is the first thing to be sucked into it, and it's completely gone, like gone.
That's kind of cool.
Gone, girl.
Gone. Bye. Which is good because Midgard is free of the Asteri, no more kill switch or first light.
But bad because it's about to happen to Bryce too.
Hesperus and Eosperus are the first to reach the line of no return, their glowing figures sucked into the black hole.
And time slows, so you know they're dead. And this is when I think it was Octartus.
Okay.
Is the one, because that's one that
isn't listed.
Yeah, and hasn't been talked about dying, but isn't here in space.
Okay.
So I guess when time slowed, something happened between Apollyon and Octarus.
Well, I'm glad that he got one.
I know everyone was so concerned about Octartus. So yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah, we're done with that one. Rigelus and Ostrus are next, and at first Bryce thinks they're clinging to each other.
Like, oh, sweet.
Maybe there was something in there. But it's actually Ostrus clinging, and Rigelus is like, get the fuck off me.
He pulls his feet up and puts his feet in between them and just kicks the other Asteri right into the black hole.
It's very like Titanic when they're all in the water, and he's like, get off me.
Get off me.
Savage.
Now it's just Rigelus and Bryce, awkward.
Well, you can't really go anywhere because you're not.
You can't like control your movements.
There's no atmosphere. I just imagine them like trying to like float around
staring
and
at each other.
But that kick did propel Rigelus toward Bryce, and there's nothing she can do as he collides with her, spinning them through space.
And whatever protection the horn was giving Bryce stops, so she can't breathe until she's able to get him off of her.
Yeah, I guess I forgot about her being protected by that.
Well, because it makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine she's already like frozen and can't breathe, but now it's really a problem. He's screaming in her face.
Embarrassing because there's no sound in space. So it's him just being like,
mouthing, throwing his hands around like, oh, you look like a crazy person.
Just like shooting her birds and screaming. And it's like, okay, you're embarrassing yourself.
Please let go of me. Even though Aidas told her to choose life, Bryce goes a different direction, taking one last breath and grabbing onto Rigelus to make sure that he goes into that black hole, even if it means that she does too.
Were you okay with Bryce dying?
I mean, there's a lot of symbolism in her like completing the circle. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, I don't want any main characters to die, but like, Rigelus can't be allowed to live.
Right.
So I would have gotten through it.
We would have, yes, we would have
If it happened,
persevered.
I would have gotten through it
I wasn't
for the greater
rooting for
good.
Bryce to die, but I also was like,
I mean, I feel bad for the trauma that would give Hunt if she did, but
God,
like,
Hunt would be like, I fucking knew it.
but like, that's, you know, if it had to happen, at least we got rid of the rest of the Asteri and Rigelus.
Well, and on the other side of that small sliver that she can see into Midgard, Hunt and Aidas are low-key mad. They're like, wow, I remember when I told you to choose life? This is not what this is. And Aidas says there's nothing they can do, but Hunt just isn't willing to accept it. He's going in there even if it kills him.
I mean, and again, that brings up the whole void question. Like, could Apollyon actually get her out of whatever this mess is?
Yeah, if it's in his mouth. Are they connected?
Yeah, and I mean, this could be something totally different.
Right.
I just wonder.
I just have a lot of questions.
But Hunt remembers that Bryce left him with the mask.
And that somehow, because they had sex, he's now a little bit made.
Which means that he can wield the mask.
Interested to see if that comes into play with Nesta and Cassian. But you aren't going to fucking believe who approaches Hunt in a mech suit.
Fucking Shahar.
I didn't expect this cameo, and thanks, Sarah. I hate it.
Shahar kneels before Hunt and opens the door to the mech suit. His wings might not work in space, but the propulsion from the suit would.
Hunt doesn't hesitate. He jumps right in with his ex and starts running for the portal. And I would have some thoughts about him sharing a mech suit with his ex.
This reminds me of the Sword of Truth series that I don't think you've read yet. And I
have that book, and I just haven't.
This is a big series that I loved and have reread multiple times, but it's not as much smut as like really deep world building and magic. Yeah. It's really cool. But there is a moment where an ex of his that interfered with his current relationship, like she comes back to try to help, and like there's a lot of forgiveness because like she's happy for him and where he's made it. And I think that Shahar is like, you know, I think Hunt has moved past what Shahar couldn't give him, and he realizes more with Bryce. And I think Shahar is just showing support. So like, I don't love it, but like if you guys are gonna save me, come on.
I was reading, I was like, boo.
I'll allow it. But even with the mech suit, Bryce is too far away. He's not going to make it in time.
So Hunt slips on the mask.
But like, wait, why?
I don't fucking know. In this moment, I don't know why he puts on the mask.
Is it because he's guiding Shahar with the mech suit somehow?
No, Shahar invited him in.
Well, like the mask is for dead things and Bryce is alive. Unless maybe she's not and he's trying to grab her, but I don't know.
But it's still like if the mask like it's there to tell you that she's dead, like is that helpful?
You know, side note, a minute ago you said, I wonder what happened with Nesta and Cassian. I think because Hunt is also made, it changes things, but Cassian's not. So I don't know that Nesta.
But why is Cassian not?
Because he was born without people interfering and creating stuff for him.
He wasn't a test tube baby? Maybe. I don't know.
You hear what I'm saying?
I get it.
Shahar pushes Hunt to fire the last brimstone missile toward Bryce and Rigelus, who are still tangled up in each other in a not sexy way.
So it's like a very risky shot, but just like Bryce, Hunt is thinking all of this shit could not have been happening just for us to die in space.
I mean, like, these are moves I wouldn't have considered, so I'm impressed that it's happening.
Well, he really puts a lot of trust in her. Like, maybe Shahar has been slowly going insane on the wall and is like, I should probably kill my ex's new girlfriend.
Like Amarantha or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that she hasn't. He pushes the launch button and feels Shahar leave with it.
Bye, bitch. I was not sad for a minute. R.I.P. Don't care. I know she's sacrificing herself, but if I were Bryce, I would be floating around in space. Like, is that your ex?
Were you sharing a mech suit? Excuse me? What just happened?
Let me see your phone. Have you been texting?
Of all the times. Bryce and Rigelus both stop as they see the missile and Shahar guide straight to Rigelus, hitting him in the fucking face.
And it launches him away from Bryce, but he's still just, he's gone. But Bryce is also still drifting towards that edge of no return. So using the suit's propulsion, Hunt races through space for his mate.
As the missile and Rigelus cross the horizon, Hunt reaches a frozen Bryce.
She's crusty.
Yikes.
She's crusted over.
And the mask is like, sorry, bestie, she dead. But he grabs her with the suit's hands and blasts toward the closing portal back to Midgard.
Right as it's closing, Apollyon and Aidas grab the edges and they hold it open.
Also, why is it closing? Who's doing that? Did Bryce send a final blast?
Is it because Bryce is dead? Was she holding it open?
Because she was.
Could that be it?
Maybe that's it. Okay.
Okay. I just needed a minute to think.
I know. I had a moment. I was like, I don't remember her actually telling us she did something for it. So.
I guess that she was kind of, because she had that.
I mean, that was her
where she was
plan.
Like, I need to save everyone, but I don't want to say goodbye.
Yeah, I didn't know if maybe she had gone ahead and taken that step.
I don't know.
Or because
I have to assume it's another sign that she's dead.
But, Thanatos is like, I'm busy.
Like, between Thanatos not being there for this and his, demons not being on very tight of a leash, I'm like, what's that guy up to?
That's a whole other problem.
Where is he right now? What is he doing?
Yeah.
And maybe he's out there carrying out his secret plan to take over Midgard with the soldiers that they left behind in Hell. Because remember, half of Hell's armies were left.
Yeah, we're not totally defeated, though. Okay, now that the Asteria are gone, we're going to look at you.
Well, and they're holding it open, and it did remind me of when Ethan and people, when they were in the shelters and they were trying to hold it open during the attack on the city. It kind of reminded me of that moment.
Yeah. Wow. Hunt throws a rope of lightning toward his daddy.
And this part made me emotional because Ruhn is suddenly there helping hold it open, and then Lidia, and then Therion, Ethan, Flynn, Deck, Isaiah, Naomi, they're all holding it open with everything they have to try to save Bryce and Hunt.
Because through love, all is possible.
And love is what's holding the portal open. That sounds so fucking stupid, but it is. That's why all these people are there.
As you were reading that, I was like, am I choking up?
I know.
Can I keep talking? I went from joking about whatever's happening in space to oh, you got me right in the, right in the heart.
And it allows Hunt to race through with Bryce right before it closes and seals off the black hole and the Asteria within it. So we won.
I mean, that was so much all at once in one quick, whoop. That's wild.
But it's closed.
Yes. And they're power grid. So I hope everyone's phones are charged.
Yeah. Seriously, that's going to be another thing is they just got sent back to the Dark Ages.
Yeah. They got to figure out electricity for real now.
They're about to be Prithian. It would be very hard to go back and live like that once you have technology and electricity. And
I'm sure somebody will figure something out.
But
just take a little while.
I know. I think about things that are, I shouldn't spend my time thinking about that. But Bryce isn't moving and she's not breathing.
That's a terrifying end for this week, but that's where we're going to pick up next week.
With Bryce's funeral and Hunt re-entering the dating scene.
Oh,
just kidding.
Yeah. Next week, we're going to cover through the end of the book, plus the bonus chapters that we haven't discussed yet.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, y'all.